Good morning, everyone. I'm Stacy Berger. I'm the president and CEO at the Housing and Community Development Network, and I can see that we are being joined by folks in the viewing room. So we are just about to get started here. Thanks everyone for being with us. Today is conveniently the National Housing Day of Advocacy. There's going to be a lot of them, but this one is sponsored by a number of national organizations. As many folks are painfully aware, the federal government is working overtime to dismantle and unfund the housing security, stability, and affordability programs that many of us have come to expect will be part of our social safety net. And we expected that they'll be there, and that is no longer clear that those programs and departments even are going to be able to support the kinds of needs and the need that is so deep in our state and around the country. We have done a poll with Eagleton a number of times around these issues, and we are pleased to report that there is still strong support for housing affordability measures in our state. I know that that Ashley Koenig is with us. She is going to talk in detail about the poll results, but I did just want to note that the vast majority of the proposals that we have posited to the New Jersey voting public have overwhelmingly strong support. We are very, very proud of the work that we have done, and both Randy and Ed will talk later at the end of this session about the work that they have done recently with the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That is the single and really only source of public investment in nonprofit community development that focuses on bottom-up, grassroots-led community development to make sure that everyone has a safe and affordable place to call home. We absolutely must protect the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, and we are very proud that the rest of New Jersey thinks the same. We know that the legislature received the governor's budget with a diversion from that fund into general treasury, and that at the same time that budget proposed raising revenue from the sale of luxury homes. And so we believe the poll will support taking that revenue from luxury home sales and dedicating it to the housing programs that our state needs and deserves without taking that money from the trust fund. So we are really pleased with the results today. We're happy to talk to them, to talk to everyone about them in detail. And at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague at the Eagleton Polling Institute, Ashley Koenig.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me here this morning, and Stacy for the introduction. And good to know it's a special day. I love releasing poll results on theme days, so that always tickles me. But we were once again honored to work with the network. We've done work over the past several years on this, and of course, housing affordability and costs, an incredibly important issue within New Jersey. And as you'll see from the press release today, this has been something that's been on New Jerseyans' minds constantly. Affordability, cost of living, property taxes, these are perennially top issues for New Jerseyans when we ask them about what is the most important problem in the state. And so these newest results kind of dovetail very nicely with all of those types of sentiments. I think, in the past, we've talked about kind of the severity of the housing problem and what New Jerseyans have thought, and the difficulty of finding, affordable homes. And those themes continue here today. So, we see very similar patterns here, including on the Affordable Trust Fund, Housing Trust Fund. When we're looking at, we first asked what has impacted housing affordability the most in the last few years. New Jerseyans say that it's incomes not keeping pace with housing cost increases, as well as housing price increases. So those two kind of go hand in hand. 42% said income not keeping pace with housing cost increases. 33% said housing price increases themselves. Another 11% said mortgage rates. No surprise here when we're looking at those numbers that these are some of the top reasons why New Jerseyans think housing affordability has been impacted. And we kind of also see this across the board in terms of these same reasons popping up over and over again with various demographic groups. Not really much of a partisan split here whatsoever. We do see, however, the incomes not keeping pace especially prominent among Black respondents and among Hispanic respondents compared to white respondents in that question. In terms of how affordable people feel their monthly housing costs are, about half of New Jerseyans feel they're either not very or not at all affordable. Just 8% say very affordable, 39% say somewhat affordable, 33% not very affordable, and 18% not affordable at all. Again, this is something that we are going to see differences on. Maybe not so much a partisan split here, but we again see racial and ethnic differences on this question in terms of affordability. And very similarly, we asked, compared to 2 years ago, has it gotten more or less difficult for you to make monthly rent or mortgage payments? 56% of all New Jerseyans say more difficult, just 5% say less difficult, and 34% say no impact at all. And once again here, this is another question that we do see some disparities on, particularly when it comes to race and ethnicity. And then we also asked about approximately what portion of your total monthly household income would you say you spend on your rent or mortgage payment each month? Almost 2/3 say that they either spend 1/3 to more than half on their total monthly household income, of their total monthly household income. 27% say they spend less than 1/3 of their total monthly household income. 38% say they spend about 1/3 to a half, and then 25% say they spend more than a half of their total household monthly income. And again, we're going to see fluctuations here in this question by race and ethnicity, and then also, of course, by demographics, key demographics like income. Then finally, as Stacey had mentioned, we asked about a bunch of measures and whether or not New Jerseyans would support the state government enacting a number of these measures. What we see some really strong support for, first and foremost, is offering first-generation homebuyers down payment assistance. 69% support, 21% oppose, and 10% say that they don't know. This is followed up by, we see about 61% say that they support adopting statewide rent control. So that is our second most popular one. 24% oppose and 15% say they don't know. And increasing rental assistance, just over half say they support this at 53%, 31% are opposed, and 16% say that they're unsure. The ones that we don't see as strong support for are ending the use of credit checks for renters, encouraging building more apartments, and raising the eviction filing fee. These are all questions that have slightly higher don't knows also, so it could be more of an education gap here. We see anywhere from about a quarter to a third supporting each one of these three that I just mentioned. And we see about anywhere from 4 and 10 to almost to about a half in opposition to these three. So again, this could be kind of ripe for education in those three areas. As Stacey had also mentioned, we see solid support for charging a surcharge on the sale of luxury homes over $2 million. 60% support this, 25% oppose, and 16% say that they don't know. Of course, with all of these, we do see some fluctuations in the demographics, as we were talking about before. We definitely see that this is a partisan issue when it comes to luxury homes. But we actually see that across other demographics, we do see some stability in these numbers across, things like race and ethnicity in terms of support for the luxury home surcharge. So again, more of a partisan issue than some of these other issues at hand that we've already reviewed. And then finally, when we're talking about the fees that are set aside to create affordable homes, and whether or not this should be used for their original intention versus other programs, 63% said that it should be used for the original intention, 17% say other programs, 20% say they don't know. This is actually interesting because this is something that is still solid support, but we see a lot of fluctuation in that don't know category since we last polled this. Stacey, it may have been 2018. So when we last polled this in 2018, a lot less were actually unsure of what this meant. So again, another educational area perhaps in terms of what the trust fund may mean and the implications of it and the implications of its original intent, but still very solid support at 63% for its original intention.
Thank you, Ashley. I think it's pretty safe to say that there's always room to educate people about new ideas and new public policies when it comes to housing. It's a dynamic and somewhat complicated marketplace, and certainly, we are doing all of that. We are very proud to have a lot of support around these issues, both in the legislature and in the public. So I wanted to ask Matt to talk quickly about the policy priorities that we have put forward. And then we'll turn it over to our electeds who received that budget and thought we can do better than the original proposal by protecting the Affordable Housing Trust Fund the way the public wants us to. Matt, you want to talk about those real quick, and
Sure.
then we'll turn it over to the folks who are with us?
Thank you, Stacy. Thank you, Ashley, and thank you for everyone for joining us. And you'll hear from our staunchest elected allies as well, who are so important to this work. So this year, this poll indicates exactly, I think what we all expected, that New Jersey has affordability obstacles, and for a number of reasons. So I think when we are talking about solutions, that we have to look at them holistically, and certainly not in a vacuum. But first and foremost is preventing the diversion of the Affordable Housing Trust Fund for other housing adjacent programs that serve higher incomes. The Affordable Housing Trust Fund is the state's only dedicated resource for low and moderate income housing development, up to 80% area median income. And it is used for smaller 5 to 25 unit projects that are so important to creating housing diversity within neighborhoods. And also, the trust fund is an essential tool in meeting municipal housing obligations through Mount Laurel. So growing this fund, particularly with the new fourth round of affordable housing in front of us, is particularly important. So you've seen in the you saw in the poll results that the public is in favor of establishing additional fees on home sales above $2 million. We were pleased to see that the governor did propose this in his budget address back in February, but we just need to make sure that this increase is going to the right place, and that is growing the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. We are short about 250,000 affordable homes, just according to the market and what the market dictates. The next 10 years, the next 10 years in New Jersey under the round 4 Mount Laurel obligations will result in about 88,000 affordable homes. So even in 10 years, we're really not hitting the mark when it comes to the actual need in New Jersey. So what that does is that so more housing will result in increasing supply, which would drive down costs. The reason why costs are so high right now is there is a severe shortage of housing across the board, market rate, higher income, and affordable housing. And folks are hard pressed to find any new construction home in New Jersey that is below $500,000. Other areas that the network is calling on, and this is why it's part of this big picture, is increasing the neighborhood revitalization tax credit to $65 million, and improving and making automatic New Jersey's vacant and abandoned property tools. So much of the state's ability to generate affordable homes is not just finding vacant or untouched land. It's about repurposing vacant and abandoned properties productively to put them back to productive use for affordable homes. So we are working with the legislature to make sure that municipalities have the tools that they need to access these vacant properties, and thereby can work with nonprofit developers in building affordable homes. We also are, related to this is the increase in homelessness across the state. So ending the practice of finding and arresting individuals experiencing homelessness is top of the list. This is obviously a last resort. So we have to do everything that we can to bolster the homelessness prevention supports that are necessary to avoid homelessness and eviction altogether, which is why we are so proud to support the legislation that promotes raising eviction filing fees in order to support the Department of Community Affairs Homelessness Prevention Program. And then undoing the fundamental barriers that have systemically prevented homeownership and tenancy. You'll see in the poll that there are some that there's some areas that need education particularly around the eviction filing fee and credit checks. We saw that those results came back generally split. So it wasn't uniform opposition, but it is a bigger picture discussion that needs to take place. But in the meantime, we have to do everything we can to make sure that those experiencing housing instability or on the verge of homelessness do not become unsheltered and have the resources and tools that they need to find shelter, but also get back on their feet in safe, secure, affordable housing. So that's where we are this legislative cycle. And please, we are hosting a legislative day on June 12th, where we will be at the State House to advance these goals and to work with our legislative allies. So thank you very much for your time. We're happy to take any questions at the end of the program.
Thanks, Matt. We're going to turn now to our elected officials who've been on the front lines of this fight. And then we'll have questions and answers for Ashley, who unfortunately has a conflict. So we're going to do that at 10:30 and then by 10:30, and then we'll turn to our partners, Ed Bethea and Randy Moore, two of our leading developers and members of our board, to talk about what they're experiencing. So I'm going to turn it over now to Senator Timberlake. Thanks for being with us.
Hello, absolutely. It's always an honor to be with you. The Housing and Community Development Network of New Jersey is on the front line of these issues and has been for many decades. It's incredibly important that we keep these issues at the forefront, especially given what we're seeing happening at the federal level with budget cuts. We know that housing is the #1 wealth building tool throughout the world, and people having a roof over their heads helps to then spur also economic development, because we know if people are slipping into homelessness, then the likelihood of them, if they have a job, of keeping a job decreases if they're slipping into homelessness. And also if they are already homeless and looking for a job, it decreases their chances of success to actually find employment. This is something that is truly the foundation, pun intended, of the livelihood of our great state, and everyone should have a home. I am in support of fully funding the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. This is something that we have fought for many years together to keep that money there. We know that developers need that money in order, community developers and for-profit developers even need that money in order to develop the affordable housing that is needed. One of the hardest questions that I receive as a affordable housing advocate, expert, nonprofit executive, however you want to call it, is when someone actually calls and says, okay, where can I get one? Where can I get an affordable house? Those are the calls where it's the most basic question, but we all know as professionals that the answer is painstaking. And the only thing more painstaking than the answer is the actual process that the person is going to have to go through to get to the home. And the reason why is because there is an absolute shortage of affordable housing that's available. We know that a person who needs an affordable home is not going to be able to just have something that is turnkey within a couple of days or even a month. No, we know that there is development that is happening around the state that isn't even including affordable housing within its plans. And that is something that has to stop. And in order to stop it, we have to have the subsidy that is available for corporations, CDCs to be able to go after and actually, now more than ever, important to subsidize the very expensive development process, especially with what we're seeing with tariffs and the cost of construction, really that stemmed from the pandemic when lumber went up 400%. So all of these things are issues that are facing our state. And then, of course, homelessness, in support of these bills that we have together for the Homeless Bill of Rights, and to make sure that hopefully we can one day get to a statewide rent control. There are so many different things that we need in order to keep people housed. New Jersey is increasingly becoming one of the most expensive states in the United States. And that is not going to be to the benefit of anyone who is low to moderate income or to the middle class. we've got to put in practical solutions and build in the mechanisms in place in order to make sure that we are producing as much affordable housing as possible to help keep people here, not just for our youth. If you have a child who may be home from college, who's sleeping on your couch, or would like to maybe get married and buy something, their soon-to-be spouse, or then you know the struggle. Or if you have someone who is trying to age in place and is having such a hard time to do that because of all of the concerns and increases in price to this state and inflation that exist, no more than around housing. We see invisible issues also of redlining, and I view the energy increase and these prices of what it costs to heat and to cool a home as a form of redlining. So there's all of these barriers that are already in place that are keeping people from being able to be housed adequately and affordably. So we have got to be committed at the state legislature not to put any more barriers on top of the ones that already exist. We've got to fully fund the trust fund. We've got to respond to all of the affordable housing bills that the Housing Community Development Network has been supporting and championing and helping to author, even in certain instances. And I am here to be a champion for you always, and amplifying all of our voices in Trenton when we're in caucus and during voting sessions. Thank you so much. Thank you, Stacey Berger, my dear friends, and Matt Hirsch, my dear friends, and everyone who is at the network, from Sharon to everyone who's doing the great work and fighting the good fight. We need more people that are going to be able to do that, especially as we have got to resist what's happening at the federal level.
Thank you, Senator. We are always proud to stand with you, and we're pleased to be able to name you as one of our community development champions in the past, and we're thrilled to have you as a leader on the Homelessness Bill of Rights, which we know is going to help us prevent the criminalization of homelessness around the state, and we'll be talking more about that. It's a great day today to be talking about all the housing advocacy, and to know that we have such strong support from the public and also from our elected officials leading on these issues like you. And another community development champion, our what year is it? It feels like year 5 of 2020, of March 2020 sometimes, but Senator Zwicker was our community development champion last year, specifically around fighting for the neighborhood revitalization tax credit and generally making sure that the state has the funding that we need to make sure everyone has a safe, affordable place to call home. Senator, it's always great to have you with us. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Stacey. Thrilled to be here. Thanks to you, to Matt, to everyone at the network. Senator Timberlake is a champion. She said that herself. She's been a champion and a leader since our time together in the Assembly. And I am deeply, deeply honored to work with her and follow her guidance and her leadership as we continue to fight for affordable housing. I am the parent of 20-somethings who cannot afford to purchase a home, who have to look at trying to get roommates just to afford rent. Affordability is, as Ashley pointed out, and grateful for the new survey results to quantify all of this, is on everyone's mind. It is federal issues, it's tariffs, it is New Jersey, it is a budget crunch that has resulted now in this pressure that we're fighting to make sure that we don't divert the funds from the Housing Trust Fund. It is an all hands on deck effort. And I think we're at a critical moment right now. Matt said something that really resonated with me, which is that after the 4th round is complete in a decade, we still won't have enough housing to meet our needs currently. And that's before we get to changes in population, changes in any economic situations that are going on. This is a crisis. And as many people have said in the past, a budget is a moral document. It sets a list of priorities. Housing, as Senator Timberlake pointed out, is the single most important thing that any individual and family needs. First, to make sure that they're not unhoused. Second, is a way to start to build wealth. So this is the task that is in front of us. And I think about this in a couple of different ways. One is just the short term, fighting through this budget to ensure that, as everyone's already pointed out, that the funding is in place, that the trust fund is not diverted for housing adjacent type of programs, that legislation that Senator Timberlake has been championing from her first day in the legislature continues to move forward and we build support. I think also, though, we have to look carefully at the fact that not only do we have the federal issues that have been discussed, but we have a new governor who's going to be coming in next year. And for anyone who has read the book or knows the thesis from Abundance, Ezra Klein and Derek Thompson's book, they point out that we as government have gotten really bad at building things, housing being first and foremost. And so, along with ensuring the financial resources are in place, I think it's beholden on all of us as housing advocates, as housing champions, to start to look carefully at what we can do and declare a housing emergency, because it is about repurposing existing structures. It is about changing zoning laws. It is about saying that when housing is that critical, we have to look at all of the roadblocks, all of the impediments that make it so difficult for folks who are just trying to do the right thing, build affordable housing, for folks who are trying to make sure that they have access to that. What are the bureaucratic issues that are in the way? That's not going to be an easy thing to do, but I think it's critically important. Otherwise, we're going to have 80 to 90,000 new homes in a decade, affordable homes in a decade, and still be 100,000 plus short. And so we've got to chip away at all of this at the same time. Deal with the short-term budgetary issues that are in front of us over the next few weeks. Deal with the fact that the federal pressure is enormous and is only going to get worse. And then look at whomever this next governor is going to be. How can we ensure that we put strong public policies in place to accelerate the building of affordable housing, to accelerate the ability for folks to get into affordable housing so they're not unhoused? That's what I think is in front of us. And I feel optimistic because of the leadership of the network, because of the leadership of Senator Timberlake, because of our other colleagues who have in the legislature in both houses who have been strong advocates. I am proud to be a part of this group and this network. And thank you so much for a few minutes of time here today.
Thank you, Senator Zwicker. We appreciate you being here. We seem to have lost Reverend Atkins, but we're hopeful that we'll either get him back shortly or we'll be able to follow up with him. I did want to respond to a few questions. And Nina, I'm not sure where you went, but if you had a process for this, we definitely can open it up for questions for Ashley. Somebody asked about a public bank. The network has strongly supported a public bank in the past. We just didn't poll on that in this poll because we just didn't have the resources to do that. But we have stood with New Jersey Citizen Action and other community advocates around the state to try to create a public bank because we believe it would be a strong tool in the toolbox to be able to fund these kinds of projects and programs. So I hope that answers your question. I did just want to ask Ashley if there was anything else in the poll that stood out to you. There were a couple of items that stood out to me, including the very strong support for rent control from the demographics around rent control and the strong support for that, as well as strong support from Black and Latino communities for first-time homeownership, first generation homeownership program. So I didn't know if there was anything else that stood out to you.
No, I would just say in general, let's always make sure that, and we'll have the crosstabs published in the press release. Always take a look at the crosstabs. I think with issues, especially like this, it is always kind of pertinent and eye-opening to look at those crosstabs in particular and look under the hood. So I always encourage looking at those crosstabs to get a deeper understanding and a deeper picture of what's going on.
Great. I know that we just put the full poll results in the chat, so people may need a little time to digest those before they have questions. We have a few reporters on with us, members of the media on with us. So if they want to do follow up offline, we can absolutely do that. But if anybody does have a question specifically for Ashley, who has a time constraint, we can take those now. But if you want to take a look at that. In the meantime, I wanted to ask the chair of our board, Ed Bethea, to talk just for a minute about the Affordable Housing Trust Fund and how successful it's been and how much he needs it. And we'll turn it to our other board member, Randy Moore from the Affordable Housing Alliance.
Thank you very much, Stacy, and good afternoon. Good morning. I wish it was afternoon. Good morning, everyone. Senator Timberlake and Senator Zuckerman, thank you very much for your support. You're both champions in our eyes, and we need you guys more than ever as we continue to battle to try to find and create affordable housing for all of our residents, especially those in their 20s and starting out with families. Everything is more expensive, everything, including obviously housing. And anytime you have to spend a third or more of your household income for housing, there's not much room for anything else, because we know that the price of eggs for some reason continues to go up along with everything else. The Affordable Trust Fund is our primary tool for building these houses. When we first got wind that the governor was looking at maybe raiding that, I don't know any other way to put it, that fund, it was devastating to all of us, because that is our primary tool. We've been fortunate that we've built 47 first-time home buyer homes in our communities. We have on our pipeline, as a matter of fact, this Thursday, we're doing a ribbon cutting for 5 brand new homes. We're excited about it. If you want to travel to the Garden of the Garden State, you are welcome. We'd love to have you to come down on Thursday while we cut that ribbon for these 5 homes. Exciting families will be purchasing their own first-time home, so we're excited about that. We have 2 projects that we've submitted for another 13 that we're trying to build over the next 12 months. We're hopeful that the funds are there and that we can do it. And then we have properties that we, vacant lots that we want to do in 26 and 27. But we can't do it if the funds are not there. No doubt about it. We've been fortunate as Gateway Community Action that we've built both first-time home buyers and quality rental units to the tune of about 500 since I've been here. And we're hoping to do another 500 in the next 3 years. So I hear about the 250,000 deficit in terms of how many units we need. We're trying to do our part, but we can't do it without partnerships. And the first partner has to be the state of New Jersey. So we need those funds to be there. We need them to be available, and we need to do everything we can. And without our champions in the legislature, we know that it just wouldn't be there. So again, I thank you both and for all your support and fighting that good fight with us. And we're there anytime you need us on issues that you feel strongly about. We always remember our friends, and our friends are always important to us. So thank you.
Thanks, Ed. Before I turn to Randy, there was a question from in the chat for Ashley, whether you see consistent responses in this poll based on party, or do Democrats and Republicans differ?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
as I mentioned, we do see some similarities across the aisle with some of these questions. For example, especially those when it comes to affordability, and how affordable do you feel your monthly housing costs are? Those kind of shared experiences. I think there's some consensus that housing is unaffordable, but then I think we devolve into partisan differences when we talk about kind of the ways in which we could potentially resolve it, and especially when it comes to the luxury surcharge. On the intention of the trust fund, that actually has support across the aisle. Republicans at 57%, Democrats 65%, and independents at 64%. I always like to look at that independent group as kind of a reflection of where New Jersey is going. And so I would say, there's a lot of strength in those numbers. So it really depends upon the circumstance. I think the feelings, like I mentioned, there are shared experiences on, I think, the way in which to get there to more affordable housing. I think that's where we kind of see those partisan lines flare up again. But I might say, and hi, Colleen, by the way, I might say, I think this is something that we see less partisan division than a lot of other issues where we just see partisan division all the time. It's a proxy now for your social identity. So I think surprisingly so, we see less partisan division on these shared experiences.
Great. Thank you, Ashley. And Colleen says thanks also. Randy, did you want to just add to that? I know you guys just wrapped up a development that was extremely popular, funded in part by the trust fund, right? So.
Sure, yeah, thank you. And thank you, senators, for hearing all of your support on this, and Stacey for putting this on. Actually, the poll results are really helpful, I think, for the work that we do every day, because it shows that there is support for this and that there is a need for this throughout the state. We're based in Monmouth County, and we have worked with municipalities for the last 30 years to build affordable housing to meet their obligations. We just finished our application process for our 10-unit senior property out in Millstone in West Monmouth County. We received 120 applications for just 10 units. And so I think that's a real reflection of the incredible need that there is in our community. Our doors are open every day. And, to echo what Ed has said, we have a constant stream of phone calls and people coming in who cannot keep up with the housing costs and the raising prices throughout. And so the need for the Affordable Housing Trust Fund is real. As we look to round 4 housing obligations, we've been talking with many towns, and this is one of the best sources of funding to do that, especially in Monmouth County, where we can do smaller projects that fit within the fabric of each of those communities where a large apartment building isn't going to work. And we can do those under 25-unit properties. And so just want to thank everybody for including us and for being here and all your support for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. I don't see any other questions in the Q&A box or in the chat. I don't think I missed anything, but I know that we will be available by email and phone and every other form of communication. Don't Facebook messages, but otherwise, feel free to reach out if you have questions about the poll. The results will be on our website. We're also doing a press release later, and as is Eagleton, so there'll be plenty of opportunity to dig in. We are having a legislative day where we'll be talking to elected officials in the halls of the State House on June 12th. So if you haven't saved that date already, I see Randy reaching for her calendar. We're going to save that date and make sure that everybody is there to talk about these results, because we know that elected officials care about what their constituents think, and they are often brave and do the right thing, whether there's strong demonstrated public support or not, but they often fight for what they always fight for what is right when the public is behind them. So we want to be sure that all of the legislature knows that these issues are very salient to New Jersey voters, regardless of political party, and that people are really feeling the pinch, whether it's a wealth issue and they don't have enough money to pay for a down payment because of our 400 years of systemic racism and institutional racism. We know that Black and brown families struggle much more to come up with a first generation homebuyer down payment, which is part of why we are fighting to keep the Community Reinvestment Act, because that requires and forces banks to provide strong down payment assistance programs and Community Reinvestment Act mortgages. And we want our lending partners to be in the market and making those mortgages. And we want the state to be making the most of the limited dollars that they have by leveraging those funds. So we have a few ideas for how to make our state dollars go further, but none of that includes taking money away from the programs that we know are successful. We cannot give people more rental assistance and tell them to go find a place to rent when we aren't building apartments. And there's strong support for building apartments, so we should be doing that. We also want to make sure that people have the rent control so that we are not pricing people out. If we simply put more money into rental assistance but don't do anything about the cost of rent, we're just simply going to be transferring people's rent to corporate landlords. So we are really proud that the eviction prevention bill that's moving forward includes some limitations on ways that landlords can stop evicting people, and we can provide more resources for eviction, because we believe that eviction is a policy failure, and that we can do much more to keep people safely and stably housed. It is much easier to keep people in a home that they are already in than to have them become even temporarily homeless and have to find them a new apartment. It is just it's a race to the bottom. There are not enough places. There are not enough safe, affordable healthy places for people to rent or buy in New Jersey. And we will not get to that spot where everyone can access our housing market if we don't address the underlying issues of not having enough resources to solve the housing crisis. So I want to thank everybody for being with us. I also want to thank Nina Raniero and Matt Hirsch on our staff and Sean Moran for making today's event possible, and to all of our panelists for being with us. Big thanks to the Eagleton Institute as a two-time Rutgers alum. It's always great to have Rutgers with us. We appreciate our flagship state university for doing this kind of public interest polling that makes the case for what people need. Thank you all so much for being with us. If you have follow-up questions, please, Nina, can you want to put your email in the chat just in case anybody has a follow-up question? They can reach out to you directly. And I think we got right under the wire for Ashley to get to her next commitment. So thank you so much for being with us, everybody. Thank you, Senator Timberlake. Thank you, Senator Zwicker. We
Thank
appreciate you.
And
I do
thanks,
want to say
Senator
that
Zwicker, for the partnership.
Assemblywoman Lopez was unable to join us. She originally thought she would be here, but we were unable to make that work with her schedule. So we look forward to seeing her and the rest of the Assembly members on June 12th. Thank you all so much. Stay safe. Be well.